You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. We talked about the disparity among a lot of different publications for LSU's season this year. And our friends at DraftKings released their win total last week, and LSU is at 7. And we've talked about the disparity. We've seen it as low as 6.5, as high as 8.5. A 2-game swing is almost impossible. You'll see a half-game difference at times, but a 2-game difference is just so massive it's hard to even comprehend because so many people don't know what to make of this LSU team because you've turned over the whole coaching staff, you've turned over half the roster. Your LSU is branded itself DBU, and all of your starters in the second. I mean, the only returning starters in the secondary are Jay Ward, Major Burns, and Major Burns was injured last year. And he may not even be a starter this year, depending on if Joe Fouché and Greg Brooks sort of emerge in those roles. I mean, your starting cornerbacks are going to probably be Mekhi Gardner and Jarek Bernard-Converse. I mean, maybe Sevyn Banks steps into one of those roles. It's just kind of stunning to see, how much turnover there's been this year because we just have never seen it in a single year at LSU ever, this much turnover. So Athlon has put out its preseason. It's got LSU preseason number 26, so one spot out of the top 25. They run through the offensive preview, the defensive preview. They mention the specialists. Of course, Jay Bramblett, the punter from Notre Dame, who will be coming in. They project that Nathan Diebert, the freshman, will take over place-kicking duties. And then the final analysis they write, and this is the first line of the final analysis from Athlon. The huge amount of turnover on LSU's roster from last season to this makes the Tigers a hard team to handicap. That is everybody. That is what everybody is saying about this LSU team. Normally, whenever I go into a year and I'm asked to make like a prediction, I normally make my predictions based on two factors. Schedule and who has the fewest questions. If you have the fewest question marks leveraged against a manageable schedule, that's typically who I would pick to have a really good year. I think in spots, LSU's schedule is manageable, but they have the most questions of anybody because they turn over the whole roster. So it makes it very difficult to project what they're going to be. So in the end, Athlon writes, if LSU can answer its many, many personnel issues, the schedule gives the Tigers a chance to get off to a confidence-building start. LSU opens on Labor Day weekend in New Orleans against Florida State, followed by home games against Southern, Mississippi State, and New Mexico. If LSU can go to Auburn, pull off a win somehow, and get to 5-0, who knows, they write. The Tigers will be outclassed by the likes of Alabama and Texas A&M, but if they can limit the stumbles in their remaining 10 games, a 9-3 record is a reasonable ceiling. That's a word I've used a lot. I think 9-3 is this team's ceiling, and that is a reasonable ceiling. But again, that's the ceiling. I do disagree, by the way, with saying that LSU will be outclassed by Alabama and Texas A&M. I think Alabama will win in Baton Rouge because I think they're the better team, and maybe things change by November, and you never know what may happen with injuries, etc. But I don't know that I'm ready to say that Texas A&M will outclass LSU. I mean, Zach Calzada's transferred out, and Max Johnson is likely going to be the starting quarterback. But A&M has some personnel issues as well as it turned over from the draft this year. When A&M continues to stockpile these elite recruiting classes they have, in time, they will have a roster 1 to 85 that's among the most talented in football. I don't think that's this year. So I think there's a reason you're seeing A&M with all the sports books projected at 8.5 wins this year. Because they are probably looking at an 8-4, 9-3 type year because of that schedule. So I don't know that I agree that LSU is ready to be outclassed by A&M. Bama's the one that I would take a Sharpie and scribble a W next to it on the schedule this year. But everything else, I could hear a case both ways for every other game on the schedule. Obviously, the layups notwithstanding against UAB and Southern and New Mexico. But every other game, I could make a case for and against. And you split them, you end up somewhere around 7, 8 wins. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.